Hi ceramics class. I'm going to show you how you can begin your coil vases. You have three options for your vases. You can make exposed coil, varied coil, or completely smoothed out coil. So these are the supplies you will need: your slip, a tool to cut with, probably your wood stick, your wire tool, your serrated rib or fork, your slab mat, and your clay. So we're going to start off with our clay and our wire tool. So the first thing we need to do is make the base of our vase. If you made a template, you probably made this paper one if you followed the template video. This was not required. Otherwise you can just look at your sketch for an idea. So if you made the cardboard template, you can use this to help guide you. Otherwise you can kind of freehand your vase. So you have the option of making a vase that is completely coiled. You can smooth one out, or you can make a varied vase where you have varied textures and coils for it. We all start the same depending on, it doesn't matter which kind of vase you make. It's also good to have a rolling pin if you have one handy, but the base is pretty small for this one. So you just take your piece of clay and measure about a finger down, and take your wire tool. If you don't have a wire tool, you can use a string. You want a piece of slab, so you don't want to just rip the clay off. And then always wrap up your excess clay. Okay, this is way too thick, but I don't want it to get super thin either. Okay, so I would say about the thickness of your pinky. So the best tool obviously is a rolling pin. If you don't have a rolling pin, you can toss your slab, hold your slab mat, and toss it, and that can stretch it out. You are also given a sponge, which is very helpful because that will create a circle form. I like to turn the slab mat when I roll out my slab so that you want the slab nice and even, or it can cause cracking. Now in some of the videos you may have seen where they did a coil base and smoothed it. That almost always cracks in the kiln, just so you know. So since at home you're probably making a smaller vase form, your sponge is a really good tool to trace and cut, but you can find another circle or freehand the circle form. So if you would just trace your sponge that you have, and if you don't have these supplies, you should come to school and get them. Also, obviously, if you need clay. And then I just pull that out and peel this clay off. We'll be using this clay to make a coil in a moment here. Okay. All right, now that you have this, it's really important to work on your slab mat because it can be very sticky. This is the base of your pot. Ideally, you would let this sit and get leather hard, but you don't have to. You can just start to build your form on here. Okay, I'm going to set this aside so I can roll my coils. So I'm going to take this excess clay I have and scrunch it up into a sausage. So you saw the video on how to roll coils, but the best way to do it is to not use your palm, but to use your fingertips and to stand up when you're doing it. And then to put even pressure back and forth. If you use the palm of your hand, it goes thump, thump, thump. So it's better to put even pressure and move back and forth. You want the coils to be about the thickness of your finger. Your thumb's a little thick, your pinky's a little thin. Now you're going to make a variety of sizes, but I would say the length of your forearm is a pretty good place to start for your coils. Once you've made your coil, you need to attach it to your base. So no matter what type of vase you're going to make, you will attach the base the same way. So it's much better to use a scoring tool that I gave you. If you don't have one, I ordered some more and you can come in and get them soon. Otherwise you can use a fork. So the scoring tool is so helpful for when you're building your form because the serrated rib allows it to attach and be a lot faster way of attaching the clay to the form. If you don't slip and score, this will fall apart. Okay, so for the base I just dip into the slip, and then you can turn your slab mat or you can just apply it. So make sure you're scoring and slipping that and the first coil. If you do not score and slip, it will fall apart. Okay, the first coil is just going to go on nice and flat, and we're going to make kind of this B or D shape depending on how you put your coil on. And then you're just going to take your stick and you're going to cut off or press off that extra. You know what works really good too? Your scoring tool, the flat part, is great for cutting. Don't use a knife. Okay, this excess clay should go in your scrap bag. There's a video on Schoology on how to recycle your scraps if you need clay, otherwise in your slip cup. All right, now you must attach this, but you can simply Smear it, especially if your clay is nice and soft. If your clay is not soft, drop your bag of clay on the floor a few times. All right, now you can just use your finger. The inside coils, no matter what, will be smoothed, even if you're doing an exposed pot. Or if you can reach in there with your scoring tool, even better. So you can go in there and score with that. Whatever is easier for you, make sure that you are attaching this. So you're going to make that, and then just take your finger, there's usually a little slip on there, and smooth it. You have to smooth it as you go because it's hard to reach your hand in there. And then it's a really good idea to flip it over and smooth out the base. So you might need a little bit of slip on your finger, not a lot. So this part would get sharp in the kiln, so it's important to smooth the very base of it, but also where the coil met. You could also remove a little clay if that makes it easier for you. Now this clay is very soft, so you might add 1 or 2 coils, and then you'll need to either leave it out a while, keep an eye on it, or put it by the fan. I think I can get another coil or 2 on this before it starts to get floppy and wonky. So I have some coils ready. So if I'm going to just do the exposed coil, I would want to find a little bit longer coil. So when I look at this vase, it's not exposed coil, but it's the same method, the belly of the pot starts to come out. So to make the belly of the pot come out, you can look at your template if you made one, okay? You need to put the next coil on the outside edge. Now I'm just measuring here. I have a lot of excess clay, so I'm just going to take a little bit of that off. Okay, but I need to slip and score this. So it's not going directly on top anymore, it's going on the outside edge. Okay, so it's very important that you then slip and score that next piece and coil on to your work. Now also, you don't want it to always meet in the same spot because it creates a weak spot. So the next time you put your coil on, have it meet somewhere else onto your piece. I like to turn the slab mat as I'm working. So I make the B or the D overlap, cut off the excess clay. Remember to be taking pictures of your process or video of you making this. So again, where you attach, you can just smear it together. Okay, now if I want exposed coil, I will only smooth the inside. So I like to support it with my hand, and I can either use my finger like this or my scoring tool. I like to use the cleaner side. And I'm just going to attach by smearing down. So you definitely want to, or up. So you definitely want to attach your coils as you go, because it's very hard to reach in there later. So now it's going to start to belly out into the vase form. And then I'm going to smear that closed. Alright, now if I want to keep the coils exposed, I can. I'm going to come back later and smooth this out. But if you want to smooth the coils as you go, another way use of your scoring tool is just to do this motion, where you are scoring and scratching them together, and then you have a flat side of your tool. If that doesn't work, you can also use your thumb. So that's really good. As you start to go, you just score the coils if you want a smooth vase form. Remember, these are weighted at 50%, so it's very important that you are doing these assignments. So this would be the start of a smooth vase form. Your vases don't have to be very big. If you are going to be doing the form where you're doing the varied coils, there are many ways to do that, but basically you would start off, and there are videos in the Nearpod that you can watch, Nearpod 3, for those of you that are completely remote. So you would roll out your coil probably a little bit thinner, maybe pinky thinness, and then you're going to decide what shapes you'd like to make. Maybe you would make spirals. Perhaps you would like to make, they look like some little cinnamon rolls. Perhaps you would like to make more of a zigzag shape. Now these tend not to be waterproof, and the exposed coil ones are not always waterproof. So this one is applied differently. So you would make your shapes, and then you would slip and score them together into a line. So it's like you're making a big fat flat coil. So if you're going to do this, this will only cover about half, but you'll see the idea of it. You would score and slip any parts that touch together and then smooth. Now, if these are attached well, you don't necessarily have to completely smooth the inside of this, although it will be stronger. So for this one, I would then do this a little differently. So I would still have to score and slip, and I can decide if I want it to move out on the outside edge or if I want to do it directly on top. This requirement is that you don't just make a cylinder vase, but that you have a rim or lip, neck, shoulder, and a belly. So rim or lip, neck, shoulder, belly. You can decide if you want a foot or handles. Okay, then I'm going to take this and slip and score where it attaches. So that's not flat. I can just trim that to make it even. And you want to slip and score any parts that touch, or they will come apart. Even if they stay now, they will come apart in the firing. So after it's attached here, I will just take and smear it onto the piece. And then you'll definitely want to do that on the outside edge too. You can always come back in later after a while and redraw the lines if you like the look of the lines, but it's really important that they're attached, and you don't want to draw too deep. So you can do that later, but right now you're more concerned about getting it really attached to the piece. So that is how you can start a coil pot, either doing exposed coil or smoothed coil or the varied coil design. Once you have started, I'm going to take this off. Once you have done 3, see how well that's attached, or 4 coils. If you don't like it, by the way, you can squish this clay while it's still soft and make a new coil. Once you've done about 2 to 3 coils, I should say, you probably need to put it by the fan. See how it's so squishy and plastic, to let it firm up. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll do another demonstration showing how you can add more onto your work. So you should have this done Tuesday or Wednesday. You have Wednesday to work on it as well, where you have the base started, and you should upload a picture of that or a video of that to your slideshow and share that with me so I can see your progress. If you're unable to do it on Tuesday during class or after school, you can do it on Wednesday, your asynchronous day.